Hello, Straight Talk audience. This is AI Gonzalo Lira, and this is Straight Talk, Cyber Cafe Edition.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Liberty Report with Adam Maxwell and Professor Red Pill. I'm back here in Tbilisi. Adam is in undisclosed location. Well, Sofia, yeah.
Bulgaria, as usual.
Might be bringing on a professor from the region to discuss. I've invited him, and last minute, sorry. So if he comes on, he'll come on. It's going to be an hour segment or so, depending on how long we're going to go. We're going to discuss basically what's going on right now with the Israeli-Iranian conflict and the geopolitical implications, as well as liberty in the region and liberty worldwide. Let's begin. Adam, take it away.
Thank you very much. You described it as the Israeli war, and indeed, everyone is saying this is Israel's war. But what if I told you that while Israel lit the match, the torch was handed to them by Washington? This is not the Israel-Iran war. It is, but it's the American-Iran war with Israel, not as a proxy, but as a partner. This understanding is, brought about over more than 2 decades of U.S. government central planning, constructing a remarkably consistent strategic narrative about Iran. This narrative is not about nukes. It's that Iran, under its current revolutionary regime, is an aggressive anti-status quo power whose nuclear power is an acute danger both on its own and as a multiplier of Tehran's regional menace. Accordingly, American strategy is aimed not only to prevent an Iranian nuclear weapon, but to contain or fundamentally change the Iranian regime itself. Under these facts, I offer that the narrative of the Iranian nuclear weapons program is a MacGuffin and a red herring. A MacGuffin is a device that's used to drive the plot. A red herring is something that's ultimately irrelevant. This isn't about nuclear weapons. It never was. It's about power, strategy, and the architecture of empire, specifically the global American empire, often referred to as the GAY. So tonight, I'd like to unravel how war is manufactured, not in the battlefields, not on the 13th of June, not on the 7th of October, but in boardrooms, think tanks, and behind the glossy veil of policy briefs. I want to explore how and why Washington has engineered this war.
Yeah, basically, we look at it from this perspective that basically the United States had influence over Iran during the 80s. This was,
70s. The Iranian Revolution was 1979, and they've been there since 1980. Yeah.
Right. So, and this all began during the Israeli conflict, or the big conflict with Israel and its surrounding neighbors, the Arab states, with the oil crisis. Is that right, in the 70s?
1979, perhaps. But the war with Israel was 1973, which is 50 years before 7th of October 1973, 50 years before what happened recently with Hamas. So 1973, 1979, there's a period gap, but probably connected.
Yeah, because I know that there's a big oil crisis. This was during Carter administration. I know Iran. There was they stormed the embassy. This was during regime change, I guess, or they basically got out they outs the American influence through the government that they had in place there, and I believe it was basically over oil, because I guess they said they had a raw deal. America was not giving them a good exchange on the oil, That was
Well,
part of it, I guess. There's a
part
lot of
of
stuff
it
going on,
that
actually. Yeah.
they were not a sovereign country. This was post-colonialism. I'm talking like post, like
Yeah.
the British went in early 20th century, gained the monopoly license on the oil. This is the British Persian Oil Company, now known as BP. And yeah, there was a Western friendly kings. There were two kings. One was overthrown, another one came in, and then there was this Islamic revolution. There were lots of problems for regular Iranians. There were lots of reasons for them to want a revolution. However, not everyone is happy with, and not everyone wanted the Islamic theocracy. Actually, before the Islamic revolution, there was a period, or like there was a transitional period of kind of hyper liberalization. And this is why when you see images of Iran from the 70s, people will say, look at these women with short skirts in clubs and things. This actually was the West or whatever forces pushing it kind of too far towards liberalization. It's not like you look at Iran from the 50s and 60s, it's a different society to that. But ultimately, they settled into the Islamic Revolutionary Guard and regime, and it's been in power since 1979, 1980. All these things occurred. And 1980 was, this is when America issued the Carter Doctrine. Any attempt or an attempt by an outside force to gain control of the Persian Gulf region will be regarded as an assault on the vital interests of the United States and will be repelled by any means necessary. So this was a direct response to that 1979 Iranian Revolution, as well as the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and the seizure of that US embassy in Tehran. And this is where America first publicly committed to militarily dominating the Persian Gulf.
Yeah. And I mean, more or less, like, it's my understanding that because, you know, America lost its grip on Iran and influence over Iran, that basically this has been, they've been wanting to regain control of Iran and influence. And so since the 80s, obviously since this is late 70s, I would say 1980. So we're in 2025. So this is ongoing for 55 years, right? Yeah. I mean,
45.
50, yeah, 45 rather. So, sorry, 45 years. And the policy is the Middle Eastern policy, as we could see with the Afghan-Iraq war. We could see that they were both on each side of Iran, and they're mobilizing and sending troops into both areas. They're still in Iraq today. A lot of people don't know that, but the U.S. government is still, we're still in, the United States is still in Iraq. There are permanent bases there. They haven't really pulled out, and they've actually, since this conflict started up again, well, not really again because it's been ongoing, but since it started getting heated, they've been moving more and more troops and planes and different stuff into Iraq recently in the last 6 months.
I don't know if they're storing planes in Iraq.
It's not so much planes. They were sending a lot of cargo planes, so they were sending a lot of equipment, and obviously a lot of troops in deployment. There was stuff going in there. Most likely Patriot missile defense systems, different stuff like that.
Because these jets and these fighters and these bombers, they have long range, so they're probably going to store them in.
Well, they're in dangerous, yeah. Most of them
Greece,
right now.
In Cyprus, in Turkey. Maybe not Turkey, depends, but yeah, and then fly them over. I mean, some of them have like thousands of miles of range. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, Diego Garcia, which is in the South Indian Ocean, I did my undergraduate final dissertation on that, on Diego Garcia extensively, and from what I understand, it's a very strategic, top secret military installation. That's a joint British-American installation in the South Indian Ocean, or sorry, I guess it's South Indian. It's like in the Indian Ocean, just south of India, like directly south of India almost. And that's where America stores its very strategic high bombers, like its long-range bombers, stealth bombers. A lot of its nuclear arsenal is there, and that's particularly there for the purpose of Middle East, and it's centrally located. So it's like, right, you know, that's where the shipping lanes are, that's where the oil is, that's where all the stuff is strategically. So that's where they store them. Well, recently, last couple days. They've been moving a lot of stuff there since this happened. So they've been moving a lot of strategic bombers away from Qatar now. Now in Bahrain, there's a recent military installation that was put in there in the last like 10 years. They moved it all out. All personnel are gone. Like they've moved all the ships out. Qatar Air Base is empty. They've moved them all out, most likely to Diego Garcia. There was a lot of fuel tankers that were leaving the east coast of America. And most likely they were headed towards Frankfurt and eventually to Diego Garcia. So this, if there is a response, it's most likely going to be staged from Diego Garcia. Of course, I'm sure there's going to be Cyprus, which they've started using that base more profusely now. Frankfurt, and like I said, these long range bombers, they can, yeah, obviously the longer ones can reach easily from Frankfurt or Cyprus or Greece. I don't know what Turkey is what Turkey is involved in this. It's a NATO country, obviously, but
it's also a regional rival to Iran, say, and it's got interests. So yeah, I wouldn't be too pleased if I was Turkey. For America to be launching attacks on Iran from Turkey, because anywhere that you launch from is kind of fair game in military. So I'd want to keep my long-range bombers out of the region, even though Turkey is a NATO ally and state.
Most likely they're in Diego Garcia. It's far enough away from Iran that it's outside of the longest range missile that Iran has. My guess is like exactly they've moved all of the aircraft and carriers to that location. It's got a huge warm water port. It's got several runways. There's a lot of storage. There's a lot of places where they could store a lot of the equipment. Some of it may have been pulled back to Europe, to Germany. Also, like I said, there's an ongoing war in Ukraine right now, so a lot of, like, strategically they probably moved it to Frankfurt as well. Frankfurt's a very large airport or air base in Germany, so most likely a lot of it's been pulled back there. Just basically away from wherever Iran could do a retaliatory strike in case if the US decides to start hitting targets within Iran, which, I mean, I'm probably at like a 50-50 at this point. It may be higher. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think that there was a news article I posted in the Telegram group recently that I found that as early as May, they started saying F-15s to protect Diego Garcia for the strategic bombers. They've been moving in there ongoing since May of this year. So since this conflict started, so this could have been pre-planned, U.S. Israel, for a while now.
It would be months and months and months, if not years, for like for like exact planning. The like low level, like, okay, we're gonna hit here. It's been in the planning for 20 years. I mean, on my Telegram channel, I posted documents going as far back as 2008, 2009, 2011. Showing U.S. government analysts.
Yeah, the war on terror.
No, about Iran.
Even before that.
It's before, right? We talked about how this was from 1980 with the Carter Doctrine, which is where America says we shall guarantee the Persian Gulf stability. You had the Beirut bombing in 1983, where U.S. Marines were killed. You had the U.S. Navy war with Iran as part of the Iran-Iraq War, 1978, 1988, the Gulf War, 1990, the Iraq invasion, 2003. In the 2010s, there was the Arab Spring. There was Syria, Yemen, the JCPOA, which Trump pulled out of. 2020, Trump assassinated Qasem Soleimani, which was the top general of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. It's the number one guy. And then since 2023, since the 7th of October, there's been it's begun to heat up what's been known as Israel's war on 7 fronts. Right? It's a multi-front war. Where are the 7 fronts? You've got the West Bank and Gaza. You've got Hezbollah in Lebanon. You had Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Yemen, Houthi. So what's gone on the past 2 years? Gaza has been destroyed, right? Out the way. Lebanon has been decimated, the leadership decapitated several times, the soldiers attrited. They're still there. There's still Hamas. There's still Hezbollah, but they've been attacked, and they've been substantially destroyed, and they're still there. Syria, this was the big one. There was a regime change in Syria, finally, after 10 plus years of pushing for it. Why do I say that? I'm not celebrating it. This is how they think. The big problem with Syria is it was a mine for all the fighters. They had so many air defenses. As soon as the Syrian government was toppled, Israel went in and bombed all the air defenses. And now you've got this corridor where Israel are able to go and attack Iran through Syria, through Iraq. And this is how they've been doing a lot of those damages. The Houthi, they fired loads of missiles. Israel's fired stuff back. The US Navy even got involved. They weren't able to defeat the Houthi, but they attrited them. You know, they've sent missiles, death. So you haven't won anywhere. I don't think Israel's won anywhere, but they haven't lost, and maybe they've won in Gaza, Lebanon, kind of Yemen, Syria, Iraq. It's opened up for the Hydra, for Iran, because you don't just go and attack all 7 at once. You go and attack one by one by one by one, and this is how you get here. And this is why I think Israel launched when it did. I don't support that they launched this attack. There was a negotiation Sunday, the 15th of June, in Oman, scheduled. Let's talk about the nuclear problem. Friday, 13th of June, Israel went in, Pearl Harbored Iran with what can only be described as an unprovoked, illegal act of aggression against a country that was in a state of peace, right? So Israel initiated this war, and they say this is preemptive self-defense because Iran is so close to having nuclear weapons. And listen, I've looked at Iranian rhetoric the past week. It's not unfounded. You can make the case. But again, it's a MacGuffin. It's a red herring. It's not about the nukes. It's not. It's about regime change. It's always been about regime change, and you can prove it's about regime change because this is what they've talked about in those think tank pieces that I talked about from the Brookings Institute, from the Institute for the Study of War, the Rand Corporation, many others, going back 20 years. So, the government lies. The Israeli government lies, the American government lies, the Iranian government lies, your government lies, every government lies. This isn't about nuclear weapons. It never was. It's about power, strategy, and the architecture of empire. Muted.
For the most part, it's really the rhetoric has been that they want to do regime change. They want to obviously they want access to the oil in Iran. That's probably part of it, but more the main thing is I think that Israel just wants to have total control over the Middle East and West Asia. And the last key to that, this is going back since the Bush administration. We were talking about this at Evergreen when I was an undergrad. Professor was like, yeah, eventually he was like saying, this was in 2004. He was like, yeah, eventually they're going to try to invade Iran and do regime change. Maybe not the Bush administration, but eventually they will. And we're at that point now. They pretty much invaded Afghanistan. They invaded Libya. They invaded everywhere. I mean, Syria, you name it, and they've done regime change, completely went into every single Middle Eastern, West Asian country, and either have controlled, put proxy, proxy governments, influence, everything. Like Iran is the last domino to fall in this region at this point. And I don't know where the main thing is like Israel has attacked Iran. We know this is fact. What exactly is the implications for Putin and Russia? because I remember Putin had said that basically if an unprovoked war starts with Iran, that Russia will intervene. And what do you think is going to happen in this regard? Do you think that Putin is going to go after Israel, or do you think he's going to wait for America, or is he not going to do anything at all?
So when Syria fell, Putin did nothing. Why? They did a few airstrikes, but Syria fell, and there was nothing that Russia could do. Now, on one hand, they're tied up largely with the conflict in Ukraine, but they've got lots of troops, they've got lots of weapons, lots of capabilities. They could intervene more, but they can support their allies. They cannot prop up a regime on its dying legs. So right now, America. Listen, I'm saying this is America's war. It's not Putin's war. Putin, there's no obligation for him to get involved. There's no debt. There's no necessity. It's in his interest to support Iran against the global American empire. But to what extent? Are you gonna like Americans say we don't want Americans dying for Israel? I'm sure Russians say we don't want Russians to die for Iran. Now, if Israel were to use a nuclear weapon, which I don't know how that could occur because they don't have nukes, right? Officially. So if Israel were to launch a nuclear weapon, then that impacts everyone, all these superpowers, whom I'm calling as America, Russia, China. And Iran is not a superpower, but it's a great regional power. Mm-hmm. If nukes are used, the superpowers get involved. If nukes are not used, there are many ways to support Iran. For example, Russia gives them lots of energy. Well, Iran's rich in oil, natural gas. A lot of Russian natural gas flows to Iran. China, can Russia spare weapons for Iran? Maybe, maybe not. Do they want to intervene directly militarily? Not really. Why should they? Why would they? That's not really how this works. But will Putin go after Israel? There are red lines, and there's talk. And talk is cheap. And ultimately, probably not. Right now, America's not directly militarily involved officially. Of course, they are directly involved militarily by
Proxy.
By partnership. It's
partnership. There you go. Yeah.
They have their intelligence. The weapons are built in America. Israel could not have launched this attack without the green light from Trump. In fact, Trump says him and Netanyahu are every day talking, and Trump says, keep going, right? This is not Israel launched an unprovoked attack. They are a rogue state actor. Someone stop them. No. This is America and Israel, part of the one empire, the global American empire, fighting against Iran, who is this anti-status quo, this resistance against whom the Zionists are little Satan. The big great Satan is America, the global American empire. They're not fighting just against Israel. They're fighting against American hegemony. You said Israel wants hegemony over the Middle East and West Asia. Israel wants security. So that's security, especially Israeli security, especially under the Moshe Dayan doctrine, is military might, military hegemony over the region. America, again, Carter Doctrine, 1980, they are the hegemon. And Iran threatens that. And Iran threatens that not only with nuclear weapons. Yeah, nukes are important, but they've got thousands and thousands and thousands of missiles. They have the ability to resist America. They've been resisting America. They've been sanctioned and sanctioned and sanctioned and isolated and attacked. There's been an attempt to isolate them. But look, it's the global American empire that wants this. Israel's the hammer. It's a colonial outpost, effectively, for the gay. I'm sure it's more than this. There's the Zionists. There's all this legitimacy and the interests are aligned. But is Putin going to get involved? Well, first, is America going to get more involved? Probably. So if America gets more involved, is Russia capable of standing up to America? Well, they've avoided it so far in Ukraine. I don't think they're going to do it in Iran. if it's just Iran versus Israel, Putin doesn't need to get involved. There is no way that Israel can defeat Iran on its own. This has been known, this has been written in all those think tanks for years and years and years. I'm sure that Russia has war games and strategies. I'm sure there's talks going on between the Kremlin and Tehran. I don't know. No one really can know at this stage. But I think the potential for this to evolve into Russia gets involved and China gets involved because America gets involved and Turkey jumps in and the Gulf state, I think that's low probability. It's possible. Certainly escalation is absolutely going to happen because Iran said, look, if you stop bombing us, we're happy to have peace talks. Israel went, we're going to bomb you. We're going to keep bombing. So there's no way, like, they don't want to stop bombing. They're not going to stop bombing. And if Israel cannot defeat Iran, then America has to get involved. Again, Israel did not launch this in isolation, but in partnership with America. And, you know, let's look at two phenomenal analysts, Nick Fuentes and Brian Beletic. Nick Fuentes says the tail is wagging the dog. The Zionists, they are the ones in control. They are the ones doing this and dragging America in. Brian Beletic has said, I've been studying these policy papers. It is America using Israel, and I can demonstrate that to you. Who is dying right now, Americans or Israelis? Israel, just like in Ukraine, who was dying? Is it Americans or Ukrainians? It's the Ukrainians. Now, look, yes, there is the Zionist lobby, the American Israeli Political Action Committee, and they lobby for billions. You know, a much greater, a different magnitude of lobbying. It's the military-industrial complex. Who funds the Brookings Institute? The military-industrial complex. It's a magnitude of difference. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it to you, and I've got much more to say on this.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, obviously Israel is the proxy to the United States in the Middle East. They are the that's basically the showrunner right there. So I think Israel is the one that makes that suggests, it probably makes the call, and then Washington either says green light or no, we'll wait on that. So the issue, the question I have is, there was actually a coordinated attack in Iran on the day of this, that Israel decided to start attacking Iran unprovoked. And apparently they sent Mossad agents inside of Iran with drones, very identically similar to Ukraine and Russia. And the question I have is, are they related? Like was this all planned, you know, to attack Russia and Iran? And the other thing is, you remember in December of last year, it was recent, like six months ago, there were drones over strategic bases in the United States. And I'm wondering if those drones are identically similar to the drones that were used in not only Russia, but in Iran recently. And if that was a war game, that they were testing these to see how they would be able to probe and hit military targets within these countries. If the State Department worked on this, they planned it and they executed it recently. I wonder if they're all related in that regard. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you're on the money.
Okay. Right
on the money, right? Yeah. Russia is tied down in Ukraine. These drones going deep in. This is not a Ukrainian tactic. It's a British tactic, an American. It's British American, Anglo-American. Israel, they have capabilities. They have doctrine. They have strategy. They have, you know, and yeah, as you say, ultimately, Israelis are dying right now. It's Israel that's getting blown up. So America can say, this is what we want you to do. And Israel, if they said no, then nothing goes forward. The thing is that Israel is aligned completely with the gay, and the gay say, one of my favorite military commentators on the matter is YouTube channel History Legends, an open source intelligence analyst. He described this war against Iran as the Pentagon's wet dream and the culmination of 20 plus years of policy objective. Israel is willing to go along with it because they have this narrative device, this MacGuffin, nuclear weapons, which is real, right? That's not like that. Iran, they are a nuclear threshold state. They have been issuing multiple statements. You look at videos from Iran, there are Iranians screaming, "We want the nukes. Let's have the nukes." Iranian official media, they have a video of them with like an AI nuke or like a graphic nuke, and they're saying soon, maybe, and this guy's stroking a nuclear bomb. And it's like, this is like, if there's any justification for Israel to have gone to war, that's it, and you are validating that. Now, you can say, well, Israel are validating the necessity of Iran having nukes by attacking us. Look at North Korea. Why haven't America attacked North Korea? Because they have nukes. The only and again, this is all talked about in these policy papers. They say, if Iran were to get nukes, it would only be for deterrence. It wouldn't be an aggressive attack against Israel, because then we would nuke Iran, suicide. But, Iran want this. They also say that Israel by itself is not capable of destroying Iranian nuclear development. They may delay it by several weeks, but they cannot destroy it, especially not without American intervention. And so everything they've written about, these think tanks, they've wargamed it, right? The Rand Institute, everything they wrote 20 years ago is pretty accurate today. They know what's going on. They know that Israel can't do this alone, which is why I think America, and pretty soon, within the next week, I think they have to get involved, because, again, Iran is huge. It's twice as big as Ukraine, 3 times as large as Texas. 92 million people. Israel is tiny, as 7 million people. Most of the critical infrastructure, water, energy, electricity, missile defense, it's in densely populated. You've got Haifa, Tel Aviv, Eilat, some places in the desert, Jerusalem. I hope they don't destroy Jerusalem. If this becomes a war of attrition, Israel loses. So they have to go in fast, and America has to go in fast, because the war could not have initiated without America saying, all right, Israel, you're good to go.
Right. So you don't think that Israel acted alone. You think that it was a joint venture in this regard?
Not possible.
Definitely.
Not possible.
Yeah. And like I said, it looks like there was joint venture with Ukraine, Israel, Mossad, and Russia as well. So you were saying that it probably was a Mossad, but I was like, yeah, just wait, we'll see. And now it's we probably confirmed that they were all working together in some capacity.
It doesn't have to be Mossad like directing or getting involved.
Right, of course.
The intelligent, it's not America, Mossad. There is the global American empire, which has multiple intelligence agencies. And, to attack deep into Russia, you can have the British and the Americans and the Ukrainians. Right. You don't need to involve Mossad. Maybe they're involved, maybe not. Whatever the gay gains from that, it can use it in Iran. It's that simple. You don't need to involve Mossad in it, but you can. This consanguinity of Mossad, CIA, this goes back to the founding of the CIA in 1945. In fact, if you go and read through the JFK files, it doesn't say Mossad killed JFK. It doesn't say let's censor Mossad out of it. It censors all the intelligence communities that are in there. But the reason why is because CIA, Mossad, it's the same deep people. It's the same actors. It's the same people. It's the Jesuits. It's the Mossad. It's the Zionists. It's the same deep, dark power networks. It's the WASPs.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, I was thinking more or less like it seems as if all of this is coordinated from Washington. It was all stemmed and coordinated from Washington. Washington came up with the idea. They were like, they brought certain agencies in. They were like, what do you think on this? What is your input? I mean, when you have almost identical strategies for sabotage, two different separate nations that don't communicate to each other, and one particular, Israel and Ukraine aren't really communicating with each other in that capacity. They're not on a daily talking basis. But when you have one major proxy being the United States, and they have a legitimate reason to want to invade Iran or attack Iran, and a legitimate reason to attack Russia, what's the common denominator? The United States. And I think Brian might actually be, and like I said, I don't really agree with a lot of stuff he talks about, but he might be onto something here, that it might be US led, and they brought these agencies in. They were like, we have an idea for sabotage. Let's go ahead and hit military bases in Russia, and let's hit some military targets in Iran. We have an idea with drones. We've already tested it in December, and it works. We've probed, and it's difficult to track and detect these. And we have a plan for sabotage in both these countries, and they happen within weeks of each other. Exactly the same. Yeah.
So I feel like what I appreciate about Brian Beletic is that he's being correct. And you say, well, why are you being correct? He says, well, it's my methodology. I don't have a crystal ball. These aren't shots in the dark. I am looking at the think tanks as the policy forge. I'm looking at the military industrial complex and how elite consensus is formed. The early 2000s, they weren't that, this is when they were deciding, how do we go and attack Iran? I was reading the paper. It's called, let's have a look.
There's one question, I think it was your subscriber that came up with. He was saying, do you think the coalition will only be engaged in an aerial campaign? Do you reject a ground invasion? I don't think there would be a ground invasion. It would cost too many lives. Iran's got a very, very, very large military, well capable and well equipped, and Israel, even though they have a very large defense force that's obviously engulfed of like every military age man and woman in Israel, the United States doesn't have the personnel to be able to successfully invade and occupy Iran. I don't think ground invasion is going to happen.
It's not only. I agree. It's not only that. It's okay. You invade. Now what? It's now occupation. They don't want nation building. You don't need to. And
regime change.
It's regime change.
Yeah,
it's a coup. They want to overthrow the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Actually, Iran has a dual structure. There is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and then there's kind of the National Army of Iran. And it seems that what Israel has been striking most is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, IRGC.
Mm-hmm.
So once you've got to topple the regime, and there's some popular support. A lot of people hate those priests, those clerics, the mullahs. You topple them, you still got to deal with this counterinsurgency, the IRGC, which may go on. It's very difficult. We don't have so much time, but the best video I saw on what are the mechanisms for how the regime change might actually work is the academic agents video. Yesterday, day before, his father is Iranian. He says, look, my father, this is academic agent, my father supported the revolution in 1979 because of these reasons, and they hate the mullahs, they hate the Ayatollah, and all the friends do, and here's why, and here's how, and here's the dynamics as to how it would actually work, the regime change. It's not easy. I personally don't see it being feasible yet, but this is why at the start I said that this isn't just a well planned out, like everything's surgical, they're going to go in. Israel, no, they're going to win. America, there's an element of desperation here. The global American empire is running out of time. There is this multipolarity, this regional power, Iran, which has dominated this region for centuries, millennia. 2,500 years, this is the first war between Israel and Persia. There are three main regional powers: Persia, Iran, Turkey, and Egypt. They're all 80 to 100 something million people. powerful militaries, lots of resources. It's gone back and forth before Abraham, right? The narrative, the biblical narrative is that the Israelites left Egypt and settled in the land of Israel. That's not historical. Archaeologically, Egypt were the hegemon in the Levant 3,300 years ago, and then Egypt were kicked out by things, and the Bronze Age collapsed, and the people that were in Israel just stayed there, and then they built this mythos. We actually came out of Egypt. No, you stayed right where you were, but the imperial power of Egypt has gone away. And then you had the Assyrians, which came from that direction, and then the Babylonians, and Babylon, Persia. This has been, Cyrus the Great, the Persian Empire defeated the Babylonians. They've been a friendly, benevolent nation for 2,500 years. This is the first time Israel has gone to war against Persia. I've lost the exact train of thought, but
it's okay. Yeah, I was just saying, I mean, the situation is that Iran, like Persia, Iran, it's a multicultural country. It's a multi-ethnic country, as well as multi-religious. Like, there's multiple different religions out of there. I mean, you have Greeks, you have Armenians, you have Kurdish, as there's Jews that
Arabs, there's Persians, there's Arab Persians, there's Russian Persians, all sorts, Druze, and Iraqis.
What they don't talk about is the fact that there was 100,000 Jews living in Iran during the 80s, right? 70s and 80s, almost 100,000, if not more.
At one point in the history of Persia, I think 20% of Persia was Jewish at one point.
Right.
Like when the Jews were kicked out of Israel, Babylon, there were two centers of Judaism in the first millennia: Babylon, Persia, and Cordoba, Spain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even the GCC, there's a lot of Jewish Arabs that live in the GCC as well, which is the Gulf Coast countries like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, these areas. So I mean, it is what it is, man. It's a banker's war. I'm just sorry. It's a banker's war, military industrial complex. It's the global elites trying to take control and power.
Which global elites? The American. It's an empire. It's the American imperial power.
I think it's a lot to do with Zionist banking, military industrial complex. There's a lot of key factors involved here. Mostly bankers, globalist bankers. And it's really comes down to selling weapons. Like, there was one Persian I had talked to. He's a Persian American that I worked with in Arabia for a while. Smartest man I ever knew. He's like, basically the Iran war, they just keep it going so they can sell weapons to their neighbors, and the military industrial complex and bankers get richer and richer by presenting a boogeyman in Iran, just like with the 20 years of rhetoric about the nuclear materials talk. It's a boogeyman. But we're at the point now where it's like, you're saying, like, America's in desperation and America's in decline economically. And as we see in the old ancient Rome playbook, when Rome, whenever they'd have civil unrest, we're having civil war in America right now. There's Mexicans like protesting all over the country right now, and Hispanics and different anti-immigration protests as well. But America is in economic decline right now, and like I said, ancient Rome, anytime there'd be any type of civil unrest or any type of economic downturn, they would say, let's do military conquest, and let's go ahead and grab more land, and let's do this and that. And this is what Israel's been doing, like I said, and what America's been doing for, recently, like the last 10 years.
It benefits the ruling classes, which is why they're incentivized to do it, but it's at the cost of the stability of the empire, the prosperity of the empire. So one thing that I want to get into is a lot of people say, this is not America's war. These bloody hands belong to Israel, which I reject. I don't think that's true. I think this is America's war. It's Israel's war too. It's absolutely America's war. So what I'd like to get into is, what are the strategic implications of a US non-intervention leading to an Iranian victory? America says, you know what? This isn't our war. MAGA, we're going to stay out of it. Israel, you're on your own. Because look, 1 week ago, my position is there are some peace negotiation talks going on Sunday in Oman, all for that. Friday the 13th, Israel launched an illegal, unprovoked act of aggression, act of war against Iran. Okay, this is where we're at now.
Ukraine did the same thing, the same playbook, and that's why I said it's eerily similar. Like the day before they were going to have peace talks, Ukraine, unprovoked, hit military targets in Russia. Not obviously say unprovoked, but it's almost identical. They were both going to the table. Let's go ahead and negotiate peace deal. Ukraine didn't want one, and neither does Israel.
This is what the supreme leader of Iran said months ago. America, they're not a good faith actor. Their talks mean nothing. Like they're just going to escalate. And then they did, and Iran were kind of caught with their pants down. Anyway, the point is that I'm not glorifying America, like what's going to happen. But, I believe myself to be an objective realist. We are now America is at war with Iran. You can say, we're not yet. We're not directly militarily involved. Bullshit.
Well, you're using U.S. weapons, so it's America's war, yeah.
Regardless American weapon, American approval, American intelligence, American planning, America.
I mean, there's a video circling around with Lying Ted with Tucker Carlson, and he was like, "We are at war with Iran," and Tucker Carlson's like, "We? What do you mean we?" The Secretary of Defense said that America's not involved, and you're saying that America's involved. Like, you're a senator. Like, what the hell is going on? Are we really involved in the Iraq war or the Iran war?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Lying Ted. Right, and he didn't know anything about Iran. He had no fucking clue about
it's kind of gotcha questions, but yeah.
I mean, most of them don't. Most of these guys, like, and even like. Well,
they have a guy. They have a guy, and
they have someone like me or you, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on?" And we tell them everything because we like to like research this stuff, and we find geopolitics interesting, and they're like, "Oh, go ask the guy." Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so they have a team. It's an enterprise, right? It's an empire. There are figureheads, there are senators of the empire, and they've got their whole team. Point is, if America does not intervene, says it's not our war, leave Israel to it, what happens? I think it's the collapse of the US empire, right? For decades, the US has operated on this doctrine of extended deterrence, projecting that any attack on its allies, especially Israel, would be met with overwhelming force. If Iran wins, this doctrine is invalidated. Allies across the globe, from Taiwan, Saudi Arabia, Ukraine, South Korea, NATO, they will no longer have faith in US guarantees.
I mean, it's already at that rock bottom right now, as it is with the dollar decline, with America's loss in Afghanistan and Iraq. Well, technically Iraq is still a stalemate because they're still there. But yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for years. Collapse 2025. Go to Twitter and Telegram #collapse 2025. I started that. Yeah,
that's why I said a few on Telegram. I think this is the war. It's and this is why it's desperation. America's running out of time. This is the global American empire versus multipolarity, a very strong power, Iran, very strong. I mean, Iran, Israel, it's a peer-to-peer war. Russia, Ukraine, different levels, different tiers. Iran, Israel, tier 2, both tier 2. America gets involved. They can probably defeat Iran, but with massive casualties. It's not going to be easy. But Israel, our greatest ally. Well, at the very least, Israel is the greatest outpost of the global American empire. They have the tightest intelligence and strategic ties to the US. Now, you can argue, well, they're a liability, not an asset, but they are tied at the hip. That's partnership. You ever conjoin twin, you're going to have lots of things in common with them. They're also going to annoy you. Like there's going to be problems, liabilities. But if America cannot defend Israel, then the global American hegemony collapses. Rise of BRICS, rise of hegemony. Iran now has they are now the hegemon. They have control over the Strait of Hormuz, the GCC countries, Saudi Arabia. What America, you can't defeat Iran. Iran are now in control of the Middle East. Like, what are the implications there? The petrodollar might collapse, or instability, right?
Well, yeah, it would almost certainly collapse. The only thing keeping the petrodollar in power right now is OPEC and Saudi Arabia. That's why Saudi Arabia That's why Saudi Arabia is supporting Israel. That's why that's the whole point, is to keep the petrodollar in power, because Saudi Arabia's currency, the SAR, is locked to the dollar. So if the US dollar collapses, so does the Saudi Arabian economy. It's done. Collapses with it. A lot of these countries, a lot of these regional powers, America, like we talk about this, and, like I said, oh yeah, this could happen and stuff, and it probably will. But you got to understand the global implications of this. I mean, this could bring down Chinese economy too with it. Just to say that China can become very powerful, it doesn't necessarily mean that China will not rebound quickly. But I mean, it could bring down the CCP and the economy of China. I mean, this could seriously cause a lot of
global markets,
problems,
especially if the Strait of Hormuz is shut, which I think may happen. I mean, I think 20% of global oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz.
About that, yeah. And not only that, but dry goods as well. Dry goods coming. That's it's coming to Europe and coming to Africa and India and Middle East. I mean, that's where a lot of your dry goods are coming through. That's a very major port. That's one of the largest major ports. We talked about this with Mario like a year or two ago, when the beginning of beginning that we started the podcast, and I was like, yeah, that Indian Ocean, that strait right there that we're talking about, that is an unbelievably strategic port or traffic way. And right now, China has bases all around it. And India's trying to control it. Iran's trying to control it. America's trying to keep control of it. But they only have a limited amount of naval men. That the Navy gets smaller and smaller every year, just like the British Navy. So they're losing grasp and power and influence every day.
And listen, there's a famous French historian, I don't remember his name, but he says, the long trends happen. The trend is multipolarity. The trend is a greater decentralization of power. The trend is away from US hegemony. At the same time, this conflict is, again, it's not between Israel and Iran. It's between the global American empire and multipolarity, with the prime axis right now being Iran. If America loses their war against Iran by abandoning Israel, by not intervening, by whatever, it's not in America's interest. This resistant axis becomes dominant. The multipolarity world accelerates beyond, right? Iran, Hezbollah, Iraq's PMF, Syria, Houthis, these all gain massive legitimacy. Iran, its prestige explodes. It's the only nation to be able to decisively defeat Israel in open war. They've triumphed over America, right? This is what we talked about. Egypt, Turkey, Saudi, GCC.
It's like the Ewoks defeating the Empire, and do you think the Ewoks will defeat the Empire? Is it very possible? The Rebel Alliance,
So not only is it going to toxify all, the region, all these relationships, you're also going to have Shia Islam, see a spiritual political renaissance across the Muslim world. The Ummah, the Sunnah, when the Zionists say, us, the Zionists, we're the shield against the Islam coming over, taking over the Western world, we talk, that's crap. But actually, when you look and think through the strategic implications, if Iran is able to defeat Israel, kick them out, expel them, subjugate them underneath Islam, and this is Khomeini's policy. He says, look, I don't hate Jews. There's Jews in Iran. I hate the Zionists because they have Jewish sovereignty. If only the Jews would subordinate themselves under Islam, accept that Islam is superior, accept they are slaves, dhimmis, pay the jizya. We're going to expel you from Israel, kill some of you. Maybe we'll let some of you stay. But, so long as you live as in dhimmitude under Islamic theocracy, you can stay, no problem. And this is what a lot of the Iranian Jews are. I reject that. I believe in liberty, which is why I believe, despite the many problems of Zionism, I do believe that the sovereignty of a nation, of a people, is virtuous. And that's why I, having thought a lot, position myself as a Zionist, despite the fact, again, I think what Israel did Friday 13th was heinous, but I kind of get it.
Yeah, Go ahead. No, go ahead, Adam.
Just if America does not support Israel, Israel collapses. The enemies of America gain ground, not just in the Middle East, but all over the world. You have a military-industrial complex that incentivizes escalation. You've got many new war fronts, many more contracts, missiles, aircraft, naval deployments. The State Department, CIA, CENTCOM, their legitimacy is based on managing or winning wars. If the US pulls out, they fail. There will be a resistance for non-intervention politically and bureaucratically, regardless of presidential intent. And really, who runs the empire? Yeah, the president's the figurehead, but it's the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, it's a special interest in military. Exactly. That's who's running the game. As we said with the 14th Amendment, the merger of state and corporate powers is one crony capitalism. Mm-hmm. This is modern capitalism. This is the modern America. This is the global economy.
Right. The gay is defined. It's defined by interventionism. If the empire watches its forward base collapse, it signals that the empire no longer has the will to rule. It's not just about Israel. It's about America's imperial identity. And many people will say, oh, America, imperial identity, empire, what are you talking about? America's a democracy. It's like, don't engage with them. Just laugh them out of the room.
Exactly.
So the non-intervention is imperial suicide. Now, look, I don't support the global American empire and what it does, and I don't support the Zionist aggression. But if America pulls out, this will be the end of American primacy. It will reshape the regional and ultimately the global balance, proving that resisting the US is feasible, and this American-led global empire will collapse overnight, over a decade. So, in conclusion, I think the real question isn't should America intervene, it's whether the empire can survive if it doesn't. And I think over this hour we've established probably not. Now, look, America can step back, and the homeland protected by two oceans. I don't think that the United States of America is going to be attacked directly, which is why many Americans say not our war, non-intervention. But you have to recognize that the past 100+ years, America has, it is the empire. This is also what the Canada and Greenland and the Panama is all empire.
And I mean, the thing is they don't really need to be intervened in overseas anyway. They have enough resources and trade within South America, Central America, and North America. So it's literally like, let's sell weapons to Israel, sell weapons to NATO, and just kind of like, hey, do your thing, but just don't piss anyone off, dude. Really, just kind of.
That would be rational.
Yeah, that's what's been the policy for shit since Reagan and every. Yeah, I mean, it's rad. It's how I would handle it, but I mean, like,
Yeah, but they're not rational. They're ideological, as well as there's a capture by the military-industrial complex. It's not right. You don't have. They're pushing it.
It's a bankers' war pushed by special interest, military-industrial complex, and military. Yeah, it's like World War II all over again. It's like you have the ideology, and then you also have the war machine. And the war machine and the ideology are now becoming one as state and corporate powers, 14th Amendment fascism. And it's like you can't distinguish the difference between the two. And now it's like that's what we have in the West. Yeah,
they're one and the same, and that is the government. The government isn't the president or a senator, or it's, as you say, the fascist military-industrial complex, corporate. It's the think tanks. It's the politicians. It's the lobbyists. It's the military-industrial complex. It's the corporations. It's the monopoly. And this is what it's all about. It's the monopoly. And this is why they hate Iran, because Iran says, we don't want to be a part of your monopoly. BRICS, we don't want to be a part of your monopoly. We want to produce our own payment system.
Sovereign. Yeah.
And the empire says, you cannot be sovereign. We have the monopoly. You must engage in our systems. You have to use SWIFT. You have to use
SWIFT,
dollars.
petrodollar. All that.
You have to use the IMF. You have to use the WTO. Now, there's been some subversion of some of these, like the WHO, the UN, for example. America pays for the UN. The UN is headquartered in New York.
Exactly. Yeah.
But also, there's been, the UN has broke away slightly from American direct control. Not really. America still controls it. But the point is that you have these systems that are trying to break away from the monopoly of the global American empire, imperial ambition, monopoly, government, right? It's all government. That's the root of it. And it goes back to, this isn't about the nukes. It's a MacGuffin. This is about regime change. This is about imperial power. This is about your government wanting to make money for themselves at your expense and causing death and destruction and war and suffering in its wake across the world in the millions, billions. Just they don't care. They're psychopaths, and this is the quintessential nature of government and empire.
Yeah. We'll close with that. Thanks, guys, for joining us. And we got topics coming up next week. And like I said, everything. This is a weekly podcast that we do, and things change week to week. I mean, a lot of stuff happened in a week since we came on, and there was two major stories. The current story that's going on right now, it's ongoing, and also the civil unrest in America. With the anti-migration. There's also the Trump
ICE, the big beautiful bill.
Yeah, the big beautiful bill. And Trump's a king and all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on, but this particular topic required an hour. And we'll probably get into a lot of that stuff later on, or may continue with this particular topic. But like I said, if you guys want to hear about any other stuff, or if make comments in the comment sections, please subscribe to our channels. Support us on locals, because locals, we get that direct payment. A lot of times YouTube doesn't like some of the stuff that we talk about, and they may decide one day to cancel us, and then they get to keep their money, our money basically. So join us on locals and support us there. And like I said, like, subscribe, and share our content. And anything else you want to add, Mad Max?
For me, it's Telegram, locals, YouTube, Rumble. And I think the best place you want to join the conversation, Telegram. You said this topic took an hour. We barely scratched the surface.
Oh, exactly.
Personally, the Liberty Rising group, the think tanks, and as a think tank NGO, the discussion continues on locals and Telegram especially. So be sure to subscribe, join the conversation, and thank you for the support. Thank you for listening.
Yep. Take care, guys.